The State of Crypto is presented by Tron, connecting the world to the power of cryptocurrency.
Sam Bankman-Fried's 5-week criminal trial could be reaching its end soon, with closing arguments expected to begin today. Joining us now to discuss is Omar Ochoa Law Firm founder, Omar Ochoa. Welcome to the show, Omar.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so you're a trial lawyer who has represented clients in federal and state courts. Sam seems to have been struggling to find words on the stand, especially during his cross-examination. What do you make of the trial so far?
Yeah, it's been a long slog. We're a little over a month now. There was some testimony presented in the prosecution's case that was pretty damning, very direct statements that Sam knew about what was going on and even directed it. Sam had the chance in his own testimony to kind of clear some things up, but as it's been well documented, right, he had a lot of confusing testimony, and the judge at times got very frustrated with the answers that he was presenting. Everything closed yesterday. Both the prosecution and defense have closed their cases. And as you mentioned, closing statement is expected to start today, and jury deliberations are expected to start tomorrow.
Did this go, as a trial lawyer, you're looking at this, do you think that he was well represented by his defense? Do you see things that they could have done better? And does he have a chance at appeal?
Right. So it's a really difficult case for the defense. In all honesty, you've got some key members of the inner circle for Sam who are testifying directly against him. Two of his co-founders at FTX, and then the CEO of Alameda. And so this information that's being presented is very direct, and it's difficult to deflect those direct statements. I think the defense counsel has done the best that they can with what they're equipped to do. Again, there were some difficulties with Sam himself being able to explain what he knew when he knew it. And so they put on their best show, and really it's going to be up to a jury to determine what they think about everything.
Well, I mean, obviously, given the amount of sentence time that he faces, and the amount of resources that were potentially involved in this, it's probably he's going to try to appeal. One would expect if he's found guilty. So, what would he do? What sort of what path would that take? How would it look like if you were looking at this? If you were his defense, or he came to you and said, "Look, I need a new team. Help me out here." What would you do?
Yeah. No, it's a certainty that there will be an appeal if there is a conviction. Of course, we still have to wait for the ultimate decision from the jury, but I would fully expect an appeal to be made if that were the case. There are several legal arguments that can be presented. One of the biggest ones was there was basically a slate of experts that the defense was looking to introduce during the trial to kind of explain the market setup and why some of the strategies that were being used may have been risky, but not necessarily illegal. The judge in the case did not allow most of those experts to testify. That'll be kind of one big avenue I think that the defense will use, is that the jury just didn't have all the information and didn't have the opportunity to come to a fair decision.
What do you think the outcome is going to be here? I mean, we're talking about appeals, so it sounds like you think he is going to get convicted, but maybe put that on the record for us.
Yeah, no, I don't know, really, to tell you the truth. I've been in trials before where I thought for sure we were going to win and we end up losing, and then I think for sure we're going to lose and we end up winning. Juries are funny sometimes. They pick up on things that you might not expect for them to use to make their decisions, and so it's always hard to predict what a jury is going to do. But I think it is fair to say that the prosecution's evidence against the defendant is pretty strong.
If most of the account holders are made partial, let's say, I don't know, 70% whole, if you will, does that factor into the sentencing at all? If and I don't want to say no harm, no foul, but nonetheless, if they get some of their money back, does that help him maybe eventually see the light of day?
I think on the edges, on the margins, it probably would help. Ultimately, the judge is going to decide what the sentencing is going to be. There's guidelines, right, that are involved in all of this, not mandatory, but there's a guideline that's presented that's based on criminal history, on the scale of the fraud, on different elements. And so if there is a good amount of restitution that's provided to investors, I could see that being used to move the needle a little bit and maybe have some reduced time.
Jury deliberations start on Thursday. How long do you expect the jury to take?
Well, it's always, again, not known what a jury is going to do. I think in a case like this, there's a lot of information to sift through. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the jury took, a week or so to reach its decision. On the other hand, it could just say, that one side or the other presented a case that was so strong that it doesn't really take much for the jurors to all get on the same page and reach a verdict. So my guess is it's either going to be a longer amount of time, about a week or so, or it's going to be within a day or two.
Does this actually scare off any potential, scammers? Obviously, crypto has attracted them like flies to honey, sugar. I'm trying to think of a proper word here, but. There've always been a lot of scammers in this space. Has this case in particular, do you think, shaken those people from getting into it, if in part because now the consumers are so afraid of crypto compared to where they were a year ago?
Yeah. Well, trying to deter schemes and fraud is certainly the goal of the government in bringing this case forward in the first place and shining as much of a light on it as they can. You have federal cases going all across the country at any given time. It's not always, a case that gets this much attention and this much focus from the federal government. So I think that is the goal, is to try to deter this kind of fraud, not only in the crypto market, but in financial markets generally.
Do you think it succeeded?
I hope so. Time will tell, I suppose, right? The market right now for crypto is a little unsettled. I think it's still trying to find its footing. But once it does, I do think you'll see some actors who will learn from the mistakes of the past and hopefully not repeat those.
Omar, as we head into closing arguments, a lot has happened over the past few weeks. We had Sam's team asking for extended release Adderall. We had the prosecution not ask Caroline at all about her romantic relationship with Sam. Is there anything that happened during the trial that surprised you? Both sides got scolded by the judge. Anything that was surprising to you?
Well, for me, at least, the biggest surprise was how difficult it was at times for Sam to articulate what he knew when he knew it. I think, those were easy points that could have been scored with the jury in terms of establishing credibility, in terms of getting them to believe his side of the story and his side of the perspective. But I think it was just difficult at times to be able to articulate for him. And that was a surprise to me.
I'm bringing up appeals again, just because it seems like, if anything, that's kind of where the next step here, as you mentioned. The fact that he testified in his own defense, does that change the likelihood of an appeal?
No, it doesn't. I think, an appeal is inevitable if there is a conviction, no matter what. White collar defendants don't often testify in their own trials, and when they do, the results are usually not good. So in this particular instance, I don't think him having testified will deter an appeal.
If you were his attorney, would you have recommended he take the stand?
I think in this instance, he kind of had to, right? You had some key players in his inner circle who were saying some very direct statements about him. There was really no other way to offer a different story, especially without the slate of experts that the defense was trying to introduce. So I think that was really the only option to present his side of the story.
Looking back, what do you think was the most detrimental thing that was done in this trial to hurt Sam's case? What was that turning point?
Right. Yeah. So I think the testimony of Miss Ellison really was she was billed as a star witness, and she delivered. I thought, her testimony being as direct as it was about what Sam knew, when he knew it, and what he directed. I think was just on point, and it's hard to ignore that.